And welcome to the June 14th, 2021 West Hartford Pedestrian and Bicycle Commission meeting. My name is Daniel Johnson. I'm the current chair of the commission. I want to start by taking attendance. And welcome to the June 14th, 2021. I got the YouTube going. Apologize. I have YouTube going as well as this audio. So let's start by taking attendance of those who are here today for the commission members. So Daniel Johnson, present. Colin Gillespie.
Present.
Thank you, Colin. Denise Gutierrez.
Present.
Daniel Firestone. Ken Livingston.
Present.
Paul Hogan.
Here.
Jill Morosky is not going to be attending today. Ryan Nobrega. And Sandy Fry.
Here.
All right, so we do have a quorum at 7:05 p.m. for the commission meeting. Next, I'll ask the commission members, next on the agenda is approval of the May 14th, 2021 meeting minutes. If questions, please state your name and objection after my next question. First, we'll review the meeting minutes. We share that material. Can everyone see my screen okay? Okay. So these are the Monday, May 10th, 2021 meeting minutes. Any objections from the commission members or comments or edits to these minutes as they stand? So we'll take a motion to approve these minutes. And a motion, to approve these minutes. If there's no further comments, please make a comment if you'd like to make edits or have comments.
I move that we adopt the minutes as presented.
Second.
Any objections? So the meeting minutes are approved with no objections. Thank you, everyone. All right, quick update. Just want to cover this first. We are going to be live and in person for the July 12th meeting, which means we'll be, be a public meeting. If you're a member of the public and you'd like to attend, it is an in-person meeting, and that's July 12th, 2021. It's going to be in the Elmwood Community Center, so it's not going to be in the town hall as meetings were 2019 or beginning of 2020. I can't remember the last in-person meeting, but it'll be an in-person meeting on July 12th at the Elmwood Community Center. And let me just give you the room number. I want to make sure everyone's aware of that. I'll recap at the end of the meeting as well. So it's going to be at the Elmwood Community Center in room 24 on July 12th. Any questions on that, about the in-person meeting on July 12th? Okay. Next on the agenda is updates on roadway and trail projects. And we do have a separate item on the agenda, which is going to cover, Greg, what you sent over on the proposed signage and pavement marking. So that's in the new business. This is just updates on existing roadway and trail projects that we talked about. But Greg and I had a meeting on June 1st Fern Street General, so they do not have permits for the bridge construction as of yet. That's estimated for spring 2022. 4 Mile is expected to have a permanent installation in fall 2021. Mountain Road will have a repaving and reducing travel lanes to 10 feet with 5-foot buffers, Glenwood Road to West Maxwell Road. New Park Avenue, they're still working on preliminary designs for New Park Avenue. They're yet to reach, or they're close to the 35% phase. So the way that design goes is 35%, 75%, 90%, and then final design. So still in the preliminary design stage. North Main Street. So the bridge project is scheduled to be completed end of June, early July. And Greg, I'm going to finish up here and I'll ask you if you could make some comments on any of these items as well. Oakwood Ave, we'll have a later discussion in new business about changes to Oakwood Avenue for signage, specifically from Park Road to King Street. Ridgewood Road, Sedgwick to Tunxus. They will be reducing travel lanes to 10 foot with a 5-foot buffer from curbing. And the Trout Brook Trail, unfortunately, is still held up at the state level. Greg, I'm hoping you can comment a little bit more about that, just to share the commission. And right now, it's looking like the later phases are still, have now been pushed back to an ETA of spring 2022.
Thanks, Daniel. Greg Sommer, Assistant Town Engineer. Thanks everybody for having me this evening. Just a quick update on, unfortunately the Trout Brook Trails, phase 5 and 6, because of the fact that those are obviously occurring on DEP property, state-owned right-of-way. There is a number of obstacles and hoops that we've needed to jump through. We've had to obtain a number of signatures, and we've gotten the signatures from the DEP, but now it needs to go on to higher levels at the state in various different departments and offices. So they're internally routing those around for signatures, but it's one of those things that it takes a month to get a signature from one office, and then another 3 months, 3 weeks to get it from somebody else. So unfortunately, it's just kind of the nature of the process. We're frustrated that it's taking this long, but optimistic that hopefully we'll have them the next month or two here, and then we can finally get those out to bid. So that'll be phase 5 and 6, which is Farmington Avenue to Fern, and then from Fern up to Duffield, 5 and 6 respectively. With regards to the North Main Street Bridge, Daniel touched on it a little bit. I know it's depending on when you drive by, it's a little bit stagnant at times. We're hoping to see that wrap up in the next several weeks. And then we'll roll into the North Main Street Road Diet Trial, which we're currently gearing up for. You'll see, if they haven't already started, Public Works will be beginning to install signposts, installing some of the signage for the center two-way left turn lanes. Those will be signed and then just covered up until we're ready to go here. And then same with the signal work should be happening as well at Fern and Asylum in the coming weeks. So you'll see those steps start to happen, and then it's just a matter of waiting for the bridge project to wrap up and get to a point where they can remove the temporary signals, open full roadway width, and then we'll be ready to deploy the road diet. So we're moving towards that.
On the road diet, Greg, the paving. So can you talk about the paint that will go down for the road diet? Will that be the first paint to hit the new pavement, or will it be temporary pavement? If you wouldn't mind recapping that.
Yep. So there was a section that we did pave just kind of as a temporary Band-Aid from just north of Fern Street up to Lynbrook. So the plan is to not stripe that. Right now it just has some temporary markings, tick marks on the pavement. We'll leave those in place, and then essentially when they come to lay out the new road diet trial, that's when the road will get marked for the first time. So it saves a little bit of cost on having to not only paint it, but then actually remove the the markings as well, which we'll have to do obviously south of Fern Street and north of Lynbrook. To the project limits on both the north and south ends, but that newly paved area, we won't have to scratch off those markings.
Greg, just a quick question. I know we're talking about the traffic calming program draft. Would that meeting scheduled with town council and CPED, was that postponed? I believe it's a June 16th date, but can you just confirm?
That's correct. That meeting will happen on the 16th, this coming Wednesday evening. So no feedback at this point. Dwayne and I are going to discuss. I know you had submitted comments, so we'll take a look at those, review them, and then discuss with the town manager. But that probably won't happen before Wednesday's meeting, unfortunately.
Okay.
Daniel, I would suggest then maybe we want to send our comments to the council as they consider that. Wouldn't that make sense? That was why we had that special meeting, so we could review and get those comments in so they could be considered by council.
So the way it's structured from Matt Hart is the commission provides comments to Dwayne and Greg, and then they're moved to the appropriate channel. So it'd be town council and Matt Hart as well, were the instructions that we were given to submit comments. And Greg, do you mind following up on that since you have more detail from that perspective?
Yeah, Sandy, we'll certainly, we'll share that as part of the discussion as well. When we present to the council, we'll indicate that we've received comments from the Pedestrian Bicycle Commission, and then how we incorporate those and respond to them will be part of the discussion at Wednesday's meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Want to open up, commission, any questions for Greg on updates to the roadway and trail projects? Not, in the minutes I mistyped, it says railway and road projects. I don't think there's anything coming for railway projects. But any questions from the commission, and then I'll open it up to the public.
Hey, Greg. Daniel, I have a question. It's Paul Hogan here. If you can help, it's been a little while since we've talked about phase 5 and 6 of the Trout Brook. And I know in the interim, the property, the former Yukon property has been sold. Is there any impact on the transition of that trail going through that area by the sale of that? Can you remind me how that will transition?
So sure. So right now the trail, phase 6 goes up to Duffield Drive, which is a block south of Asylum Avenue. We're calling phase 7 that last connection.
Okay, that's 7. Okay.
To
Great.
Asylum Avenue. But really, it's too early. I mean, ideally, yes, we want to see the trail continue along the west side of Trout Brook, along that parcel from Asylum heading north to Lawler. But we don't even know at this point, what the development's going to look like. Nothing's been presented to the town.
Okay,
that would be an early comment that we would have. Is that there's a strong desire to extend that, and we would have those conversations early on.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, I thought, I guess the 5, 6, 7, I was a little confused on what ends where, but yeah, I think that would be an important, to integrate that moving forward with whatever happens there.
I'll open up any other questions of the commission. Also, any public comments? I saw Alan was on earlier. I don't see him there anymore. Ethan, do you have any questions for Greg on upcoming roadway and trail projects?
No questions.
Okay. And then West Hartford Community Interactive, YouTube, I still see the comments turned off. I want to make sure I'm not missing anyone that I was posting comments there. I see the chat is available. I'm not sure how that feature works. Just give it a minute in case they're typing. Okay. Next on the agenda, we're going to do a quick recap of the special session that we had regarding the traffic calming program draft. Sandy, am I okay to show your email? Do you want to just recap what we sent over to the town?
Yeah, it'd be great if you showed it so I could remember what we said.
Perfect. I just wanted to run that by you first.
Yeah, no problem.
Can you see okay?
Yeah, so basically, we complimented them that this was a great progressive step to take, and that it could be transformative for the town. And we had, our major concern is that it addresses only local streets. And that because of the kind of town that we are, West Hartford, you know, the higher level, some of the higher level streets, the collectors, the arterials, actually perform many functions beyond moving traffic, and that we think that the guide should acknowledge that. So, and we also pointed out that there are some fact sheets on traffic calming measures that say they apply to higher function roadways. We noted that there were some newer resources that might be considered. We pointed out the Burlington, Vermont 2020 Traffic Calming Manual, which has some really good metrics that we thought would be useful. We asked that sharrows not be listed as a traffic calming measure. They're kind of a guidance on a street, but they're not really traffic calming. And we asked about excluding short blocks, that seemed, we didn't think that, and this should all sound familiar because this is what we discussed at the last meeting.
Yep.
And we also, there was an exclusion that traffic calming wouldn't be appropriate on roadways and commercial zones. And we thought that those are places where you have a concentration of pedestrians and slowing of traffic might be needed. Can you go down a little bit more?
Sure.
Okay, and then we asked about 3,000 vehicles per day being the upper limit for a roadway where traffic calming could be tried, and also using saying that roads with an 85th percentile speed less than 33 miles per hour wouldn't be eligible for traffic calming. Let's see. We do support that traffic calming should be neighborhood wide, that's important to consider that. And we wanted, there was some concern at our last meeting that sometimes you can do traffic calming and it makes things worse for bicyclists. So we wanted that to be acknowledged and sort of pointed out that bicycles need to be part of the solution or need to be considered likely road users on a traffic calmed roadway. We suggested that our commission be represented on the Traffic Calming Review Committee. And we're expecting that probably the traffic calming program would be incorporated in the town's annual Complete Streets report. So that's just a quick summary. And like I said, that all should be familiar because we talked about it last month.
Yep. Thanks, Sandy. I definitely want to just recap it since we talked about it. There was the follow-up that went back and forth through email. So felt it was important that we just reviewed it one more time of what was submitted. And it's actually timely. You know, we have Greg Summers on the line as well. Just hit pause here. So, for those of you not able to attend, that special session was on Thursday, May 27th. Started a little bit late due to some technology setbacks. And what Sandy just reviewed was an email we sent to Dwayne Martin, who's relayed that to a number of people within town. And there's an upcoming meeting on June 16th where this draft is on the agenda. Any questions from the commission on the traffic calming program and the letter sent to the town? Any questions from the public on the traffic calming program draft that we reviewed as a commission during the special session meeting on 27th of May? Caller 47, you have a lot of background noise. In case you're looking to speak, we can't hear you, but if you're not looking to speak, just ask that you go on mute. Greg, since you're here, just a quick question. So the process map for the traffic calming, whether it goes to the next stage of review, it had a scoring model, and one of those scoring was crash rate, and what we didn't see present was the vulnerable user crash rate. So if, say, a pedestrian got hit by a motor vehicle or a bicyclist got hit by a motor vehicle, there wasn't a specific line item for scoring on that. Have you thought through that process yet, or has there been other follow-up discussion since that draft was initially sent to us? I think it was a April version, so you might have had some opportunities to make some revisions at this point.
Yeah, no, we haven't made any revisions at this point. Dwayne was out last week, so unfortunately we didn't have a chance to connect to discuss the feedback you provided. We plan on doing that tomorrow morning. So I don't have comments for you at this point, specific to that, but that's something that we will look to, to address, and we will provide a response to your comments as well, to those items. So.
Okay. And I just want to pull up the town council meeting agenda just so everyone can see where they can attend. Since we have shared screen, I'm not sure what's going to happen when we go back to in-person. I might have to bring, a projector screen or what's the clear, I can't think of it, but you drop it on the glass and the light box and it shoots up on the whiteboard. All right. Get myself some dry erase markers ready to go. So this is the June 16th meeting, starts 6 p.m. tomorrow. It's virtual community planning economic development committee, 6 p.m. And you can see item 2 is the neighborhood traffic calming program. And Greg, can you, since you're here, just confirm that this is the review of the draft proposal?
That's correct. Yep.
Okay. So if you're interested in joining, again, this is tomorrow. You can find it on the West Hartford public website under meeting and calendar. It is the second item so far as business items, so you can get in early, learn more about how that process goes through. All right, great. So next on the agenda, we'll just recap on an email to the town related to the survey response. So we did send an email to Dwayne Martin based on the bicycle pedestrian survey that was completed. Thank you, Denise and Colin, for working on this. This was sent on May 29th. Provides a summary to the town, what we've learned from the survey. We did ask for the inclusion within the town website on the West Hartford Pedestrian and Bicycle Commission page. I checked today, I didn't see it there. I'll touch base with Dwayne again. He seems to be back today. So I'll circle back to have this available for the public on the public site. And what we wanted to do was recap this and provide some information to the town council. Any questions from the commission on the survey? And then I'll open it up to the public.
What was the final response rate? One more time, Daniel.
The final number of people that responded,
Yeah.
1,019. That does not mean everyone answered all questions. So there was 1,019 survey takers. They were able to skip through different sections depending on. So did you want me to pull up the survey at all, Paul? I can find that really quick if you'd like to look at it.
No, thank you. Yeah, I was just talking to someone who's done a couple surveys, and
Yep.
you know, it doesn't seem like a horrible response for a survey like that, from what I understand. You know, we have 63,000 people in town, but based on demographics and stuff, it doesn't seem like too bad. So anyway,
Yeah.
thank you.
Daniel, would there ever be a consideration for some promotion of the results? I'm thinking some of the graphs are interesting, and would there ever be an opportunity for an article in a West Hartford News, or is there interest in something like that? Just to create energy and excitement around it.
Yeah, Colin, sorry. So the reason I was actually curious, I was talking to Ronnie Newton about that. So she's the editor for weha.com. So that's how I was just briefly mentioned it. So I will try to circle back with her. I've kind of touched base with her a couple times to try and get us on the radar.
Thanks, Paul.
Yeah, I think that would be, a great way to involve more people. Ideally, I kind of reached out to her initially to get her, I guess, promotion, if you will, of participation. But now, maybe on the back end, we can do something. So I guess stay tuned. I'll try and touch base with her once again.
Yeah, and the content could be a starting point for an article. It doesn't have to be the article, but then we could use some graphical interface to make it interesting in the if it's public, like graphs and things like that.
Yeah. And I think caller 47, were you about to say something, or did your microphone just click on?
Is there anything in particular you think is worthy of being highlighted?
Did you ask me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I would go back, but I think if from a marketing perspective, even though it's not a totally causal scenario, or even but the whole idea that in COVID more people rode bikes is a headline, and then you pull people in and you start to talk about the realities of it all. I mean, we wouldn't want to do it inaccurately, but I think everybody noticed that. Everybody saw people out, and they still see people out. Although there's a lot less people on the bike path now than there was in mid-COVID. When I'm out like towards other areas of the county and state. But I guess what I would say is that might be an angle to get some interest, because hey, what happened during COVID and with cycling, and what's happening now in West Hartford with cycling?
Yep. And Paul and Colin, if I could just follow up on that. So Alan in the YouTube chat says, does the commission see any action items coming from the survey? I definitely think we have a lot of items that we could pick up from the survey and that we can include with discussions from the town. Part of our submission to the town from the survey says the survey may be used for the purposes of reference, analysis, and call to action by the commission or community members. We want to make sure that people in the community can have access to it, use it as a reference source, for what purposes they may want to do. As a commission, I think Colin and Paul, you're talking as well as, picking out specific things and making it more of a visual presentation for other publications.
Yeah, I think just promotion, education, engagement type of perspective.
Yeah. I see it too, and you know, if anybody else as well, is, you know, as we approach different tasks and things are presented to us, we can look at that survey and use that information to strengthen our argument and cause. Caller 47, again, it's 860-2, few asterisks and 47. You have any questions? I do hear you on the line every once in a while. I just want to make sure I'm not missing your voice here. All right. Moving on. So on to new business. Greg sent over an email, proposed signing and pavement marking plans for Mohican Drive, Mohican Drive, Oakwood Avenue, Ridgewood Road, Tungus Road, and Whitman. Let me share my screen. Everybody see my screen okay? Can you guys see my screen okay?
Yes.
Right. So first up, this is Mohican Drive. And this Mohican Drive from Albany Avenue all the way across to Simsbury Road. And the current proposal, sorry. Greg, would you call this a draft at this point, or this would be upcoming pavement roadway markings?
Yeah, I mean, essentially that, you know, they're a draft. We're interested in hearing any of your feedback, and then you know, we'll basically get them implemented as soon as the roadways are paved, which will be coming up end of this month and into July for our second round.
So these are up. That was my next question. So these pavings, end of June, or is there different timelines? We can go one by one if you'd like.
No, we'll lump them all together. It's all part of the second round. I don't have the exact sequence, but it'll begin that last week of June, you know, into July.
The roadways are paved, which will be coming up end of this month and into July for our second round. So that was the next question. So these paving.
Caller 47, if you mind hitting mute on YouTube or your phone.
No, we'll lump them all together. All part of the second round.
Andrew, are you able to mute?
It'll begin that last week of June. You know, into July. The roadways are paved, which will be coming up.
All right. You know, resident who called in, please try to call back in. There's a mute button on your phone when you enter, or *6. If you call in, you need to mute yourself. *6 will actually place that mute. You can use your touchpad. So looking at my screen here, this is for Mohican Drive. And Albany Avenue starts over here. So this road seems to have bicycle improvements or pedestrian improvements so far as bikes in lane signage, share rows, and a custom directional arrow. And I'll jump to that in just a second. So this is Albany Avenue heading north through Mohican Drive. On the top section here, continue down. This is the signage that will be placed. And continuing on, I believe it's a 2-page report. But and then here, I had a question, Sandy and Ken, if you guys had a chance to look at it. This is a custom, and Greg as well, custom directional share road, which seems to indicate this is coming onto Simsbury Road. Pretty busy street, especially during traffic hour. Any questions or comments on the Sharo?
Daniel, if I may, the reason we chose to orient it, and it kind of indicates to turn left, that jives with the green bicycle routes. So if you look at that, where that Sharo is located right before Hilldale Road, there's actually a sign and an arrow pointing to the left, and that route continues down Hilldale Road. So that's why we use that Sharo with the arrows or the chevrons reoriented to kind of reinforce that maneuver, so that somebody that's riding the green route won't accidentally end up on Simsbury Road.
And Greg, I don't know off the top of my head, you know approximately where that other sign is for the colored route?
It should be right where the Sharo is located, thereabouts.
Okay.
Hey, this is Paul Hogan here. Can I ask a quick question here? When I look at Mohegan and I kind of see the traffic calming designation of that road, it's considered, quote, like may be eligible for traffic calming. What differentiates it as like a maybe versus like an is? Because people use that pretty frequently as a cut through, and I've seen some concerning behavior on that road. So if you could perhaps, Greg, comment on the delineation there. I don't know if it's a volume issue with that may limit traffic calming measures there. Can you help orient me on that classification on that specific road?
Sure. I don't have the designation. My guess is that it's probably a collector roadway, just based on the fact that it connects between Albany and Simsbury Road. So that's kind of the designation that would kind of put it in that, needs some additional consideration before you really consider it for being eligible for potentially for traffic calming. But again, that's kind of not really related to, the purpose of this is just the markings when that roadway gets resurfaced. So two kind of separate issues. The neighborhood traffic calming program is really a way for a neighborhood to engage the town and try and solve a problem, whether it be too much cut through or a volume issue, too fast travel speeds, that sort of thing. What we're doing here is just trying to provide additional bike facilities. In this case, it's through the Sharos on the pavement.
Greg, this is Ken Livingston. There'll be no striping on the roadway itself besides at intersections. Had that been considered to sort of with a center line and two 10-foot travel lanes with, you could put 2-foot shoulders just to give some demarcation. I mean, that's one of the things. It's a higher, I've driven it, I've biked on it. The speeds go higher, but there's no center lanes or any lines or anything, so it almost looks more open than it maybe should be.
Yeah, I don't think it meets the warrants for a double yellow center line. We could take another look at it, but that wasn't the plan. Usually, that's pretty confrontational. If you try and propose a new double yellow center line, the residents on the street, I think, would get a little upset and think that it's now the roadway is being perceived as a higher classification, if you will. It's more of a perception thing than any, but yeah, I don't think that would be viewed all that favorably. And in the interest of getting the road remarked, that wasn't something that we're proposing at this time.
Yeah, because it's generally 25 feet, because then you could actually get 2.5 feet shoulders, which, while not a bike lane, give almost a space that cars should be aware of versus.
I'm concerned about the directional Sharo, because not everybody riding a bike on this road is destined for that green route. So I think that's sort of a mixed message. I wouldn't do that. Because I know a lot of people use this to ride out to Cigna. And I don't think they would choose to take Hilldale Road to do that. It almost looks like bikes, this is the way you're supposed to go.
That was my read of it real quick, Sandy. Greg, is there an opportunity to do a colored marking that says this route left, if that's what you're trying to follow, versus just the pavement? I'm sorry, just versus the sign as it is?
No, the Sharrows would be white. We wouldn't have an opportunity to change colors.
So Sandy, the request is to not have a directional Sharrow?
Right. If you think it's going to be confusing to have a Sharrow right there, pull it back. So, like, if your concern is somebody following the green route will see that Sharrow and think, oh, I'm supposed to go straight past that intersection and miss the sign, then I would say pull the Sharrow back further so it doesn't seem to be saying that. But I just don't think that makes sense. We don't have an on-the-road wayfinding system for the three colored routes. But, you know, I'm interested to hear what other commission members think about that.
And I'll open it up to the public as well if you have a question on that too. We're gonna have a hard time in public when we go back to meeting in person with this long. So
It'll be more dynamic in person.
just picture a long stare down for a minute. Sandy, I agree that if I'm following the colored route, I'm looking out for signs that are off the pavement. If we're doing on pavement markings, you know, I think we, you know, that point might as well look at a more you know, playful approach to colorizing the route throughout the streets. But this Sharrow here is a direction. I was looking at it without the color route in mind, and I would be confused coming to this and maybe thinking that this is actually a faster route if I took Hilldale, but not put me in the right direction that I'd like to go.
I just want to take time to remind everybody that the intent of a Sharrow is to provide wayfinding or guidance. It's not telling you that you can't, it's helping to position a cyclist, but it's not telling you you can't go straight or you can't continue on Simsbury Road.
Right.
You know, we've used them in this application before. I believe there's one on, I believe it's on Brayburn or Whitman. And we also plan to introduce them on Tunxus to follow those markings on the, I believe it's the blue route in that section of town as well. So
Okay.
that was the intent moving forward, but we can certainly reconsider that.
Greg, it might, maybe just because it's approaching Simsbury Road, you know, it's a busier street. Is there a way to set that back, as Sandy mentioned, or does it have to be at that location?
It would seem to me it would make sense because you have the sign. You know, we generally try and correspond. If you look at the plans throughout, anytime there's a sign, there's usually a marking associated with it, so that not only, you know, again, these don't necessarily always benefit the cyclists; they also benefit motorists too, so that they're aware and start to put together the fact that the Sharrows and the bike symbols and the signage and how those relate. that seems like, I know it's close to Simsbury Road, but you know, that's where the trail turns. So I don't know if it makes sense to put it much further in advance. You're not turning there, you're turning at Hilldale. So
No, I think, Greg, you're misunderstanding. We're saying just put a standard sharrow and put it further back so it's not confusing to the bicyclist. And so that they continue to just look for the signs along the road and see, oh, I'm supposed to turn here. That was the idea with moving it back, that you don't need that little turn thing on it, because you're just saying it's a sharrow, you know, here's about where you place yourself on the roadway if you're biking. I think that road is used by enough people who are not just following the green route that I think it would be confusing to have that.
Agreed.
Thanks, Sandy. Thanks, Greg. You jump to the next one. This is Park Road. Not Park Road. Scratch that. This is Oakwood Avenue. Sorry for the heart attack, Greg. And this is going to head south to Kane Street, or if you want to go from Kane Street north. There's some new enhancements here. If you've been on Oakwood Avenue recently, the MDC has put its footprint down on the pavement and overall overall road. So here at Kane Street, we have a left turn lane and a 10-foot, maybe plus, travel lane. And then it moves actually into a bike lane. And the bike lane terminates at St. James Street if you're heading a different direction and moves through on Oakwood Avenue. The way this is marked, it's a 5-foot bike lane, north and south. And again, that's not at Kane Street, but it slowly tapers in from Kane Street and then tapers off as it gets close to Park Road. Here on Park Road, there's commercial area, restaurants, as well as businesses. So there is on-street parking at this stage. The bike lane terminates right before Crosby Street. So it goes 5 feet, then it terminates. And then there's some new signage for install bike in lane, etc. Definitely an improvement, a very short distance, but if you travel from Kane to Park, you do pass a local park as well as a couple different businesses and apartments. So this 5-foot bike lane will be right in front of those areas, and it does, like I mentioned, it tapers off. One thing I noticed, Greg, is on the side closer to Kane Street, and I'll just jump up there real quick, is we do have a bike lane ends coming into St. James, heading south towards Kane Street, but we don't have that same signage going the other direction north towards Park Road. There's no indication of bike lane ends here. Is that intentional or design consideration for that?
It's intentional. It does pick up again north of Park Road. I believe it's Sharrows for now. We could look at. I mean, that's certainly something we could consider if we wanted to do a bike lane ends. I'm kind of indifferent and would defer to the commission on that if they feel that the bike lane end sign is more appropriate. We can put that there as well.
What do others think?
I'm not a big fan of bike lane end signs because I think you see it on the ground that it's ending. So I'm okay either way, but I really like this, getting these additional bike lanes for the length that we are. So thank you.
Yeah. What others think? And it is open to the public as well, if I don't hear from any commission members on this. So if you have any questions on Oakwood Avenue, Park Road to Kane Street, road improvements. Greg, I didn't see it on this map, but I think we covered it on the phone call. The sidewalks got ripped up here due to the construction going on this roadway. Is this, you mentioned last week of June, early July that these projects will begin. Would those sidewalks be, corrected? There's some uneven sidewalk structures as well.
That's all part of the MDC's restoration effort. So I'm not sure if the sidewalk work may lag behind some of the paving. I know we've pushed this one to the end of our round. So of the list of, maybe it's 10 or so streets that we're paving, this will be the last one that we mill and the last one that we pave, just to give them a little bit more time to finish up any of those sidewalk restoration items they might have. But yeah, the MDC, their contractor Baltazar would be handling all of that. That wouldn't be a town project.
Okay. Sandy, I don't know what it's doing here, but for me, I actually lived on Gillette for a little bit, and then if you're coming this way north to Park, there is a lot of on-street parking that happens here in front of these houses, and then as you get close to the restaurants, whether it's people just jumping up there temporarily, but personally, I think adding the bike lane would give some awareness, to the bicyclist who's expecting this to continue, just because there's some upcoming hazards that may be approached as they approach Park Road.
Yeah, I'm fine with having them. They're just not a big priority for me. So if others think we should have them, that's fine with me.
Okay. Greg, can we add bike lane will end as it goes north into Crosby?
Yep, we can do that.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions from the commission or the public related to Oakwood Avenue? Okay. Next, we're on Ridgewood Road. This is between, hold on, let me zoom out here. I'm coming in. This is between Tunks's Road and Sedgwick. Seems to be a lot of construction. This little block. Greg, you guys put a nice visual cue for the bike lanes and the vehicles. So as the commission can take a look, so it's 5-foot bike lanes and 13-foot travel lanes. And that goes from Tunxus to Ridgewood. Sorry, Tunxus to Sedgwick. Please correct me on that. But the bike lane going into Sedgwick terminates a few houses before the intersection, as there's a left turn lane 10-foot and a go straight 10-foot turn lane, straight center lane. Any questions?
Wonder,
Yep.
Yeah, I'm wondering where the where the travel lanes are so wide, Greg, it looks like they're 13, are they 13 feet there with 5-foot bike lanes? Whether you wouldn't want to give a little more room, maybe a buffer to the bike lane, a painted buffer where you have, now, I'm not sure, maybe it doesn't extend very long, so it doesn't make sense to do that. But, you know, you could take a couple feet, still have 11-foot lanes and have a nice buffer to the bike lanes.
It's something we can consider. I think our initial thought would be let's just go with the 5-foot bike lane. If we see in the future there's a need for the buffer, we could always add that other line. But it gets a little costly, not only the initial implementation, but then the long-term maintenance of that, to have those additional line on the pavement and all the hatching that's associated with it.
Yeah, and I guess maybe I'm turned around. Are we? The turn lane is at Tunxus? Is that where the turn lane is?
No, it's at Sedgwick.
Sedgwick,
At
yeah.
Sedgwick. So is this south of Sedgwick or north of Sedgwick?
South,
So this would be
of Sedgwick.
South
To
of
Tunxus.
Sedgwick. I'm just trying to picture.
Yeah, if you come from Corbin's Corner and you cross over Tunxus Road, a lot of traffic takes a left here on Sedgwick to take that 90-degree bend and get closer to Mountain Road, or takes a left to go up to Albany. Actually, they probably would go that way. To go left to go to Farmington Avenue. Do you want me to pull it up on Google Maps for you, Sandy? Double yellow cat tracks. And Greg, what is the crosswalk experience right here? Is it it's a push button crosswalk?
Yeah, there is pedestrian signal equipment there now. I believe that's one of the intersections we're actually looking to upgrade as part of some future grant funding. So I think that is going to be improved with accessible push buttons in the near future.
Yeah, because it's close proximity to Sedgwick Middle. That'd be great. Sandy, any questions on this or any more follow-up?
No, I'm okay.
Okay. Next, we have Tunxus Road. It's a little bit hard to follow, so I'm going to go east to west. So on the bottom here, we have Sedgwick Road. If you could see this half circle, that's Sedgwick Middle School. Right across the street, there's the 45-degree bend into Tunxus. And the way I'm reading this is currently that this crossed out line here, which looks like a zigzag, is the current markings. They're going to push that out, and it'll be 5-foot markings for a bike lane, and reduce the road width to 10 feet. Some crosswalk refreshes going on here as well. And as you move west, continues on. I'm going to jump up here. This covers the slow bend around the corner as we approach Ridgewood Road. And then after Ridgewood Road, the bike lane ends. We do have a bike lane end sign here. And then it becomes a full Sharrow Road through Tunxus Road to Wood Pond. And what that looks like in the curves is just Sharrow markings. We have another custom directional arrow. Just have a question on where that arrow is pointing. And then another one here, this is part of the route, the signed route. I'm not sure what this right one is. And then again, we should probably revisit this, related to the signed routes. Greg, this one here that It's got 45-degree bend. Do you know what that's pointing to, or is it just the direction of the image file?
No, there's actually a shared path. It's a bit sidewalk.
Okay.
The thought would be we're encouraging riders to be up on that pathway, especially around those curves on Tunxus Road. That's a much safer place to ride. So that's where that Sharrow's guiding a cyclist.
Okay. And Wood Pond, this shoots across that loop. I can't remember what color it is, but any questions from the commission or the public? Okay. Let me just check YouTube, make sure. Uh-oh, close YouTube. Nothing from the public on YouTube, comments. And then last we'll go to Whitman Avenue. This is North Main Street to Pleasant. So we have North Main Street here on the right. And this will get a Sharrow's throughout. And then it bends towards the bottom. So if you're familiar with Whitman Avenue, this road will have an impact during the road diet trial because the road diet, I guess, begins close to this street here. So there's gonna be some traffic changes to North Main Street related to the road diet. Whitman Avenue, if you're familiar, is parallel, a few streets parallel to Farmington Avenue, the center. This runs, east and west, and this is gonna be a Sharrow road. And then as you approach the Fernridge Park and the Fairview Cemetery, there's a pretty sharp bend. Again, just continue with Sharrows. These are placed. The only question I had for here, Greg, is this Sharrow is placed, looks like to be, is this in front of a parking spot here? Just zoom in a little bit.
It's actually just after that parking bump out ends. So it's right past there. So it's not in conflict with the parking.
Okay. Is there a way to indent this, or to bring this out a little bit so it's not directly in line? If there's a vehicle parked there, you don't lose the Sharrow coming from the east-west direction.
The parking is actually outside the edge of that roadway. So right where you see the number 20.
Okay.
If the parking's on the top of that top side, yeah. So they're actually parking off on the shoulder. We made a little cutout over there. So yeah, the Sharrow's still in the travel lane.
Okay. Any questions from the commission on that? Okay. Any questions from the public? All right, let's move on to our next agenda item. So that was new business, proposed signage and pavement markings. Next on new business, I put there request for traffic enforcement for pedestrians and bicyclists, and the request, we get either the police at an upcoming meeting so we can talk about traffic enforcement. Want to check with the commission. What are your thoughts on having, if we can get the police to join us for an upcoming commission meeting? and any steps we want to take regarding the survey that we received and enforcement. And Paul, there's also that aspect of traffic calming program, which talks about enforcement. So I think we have a lot of material we could ask them as a commission if we can get attendance during an upcoming meeting.
And could we pre-prepare them with the survey and a link and maybe even highlight a couple things? I think there's still not as much understanding of what bicycles are allowed to do on roadways by sometimes our law enforcement officials. And also the feeling of safety that people have on bicycles versus cars. And maybe the survey can help us with that.
Yep. Paul, you know, I was thinking of you especially too with this, and there's also a couple residents who I don't hear on the line, but you know, David Beers is one as well, where you know we look at every aspect that we take to protect pedestrians and bicyclists, and becoming more involved with you know how enforcement handles these different aspects. Any in particular you want to bring up as well?
Nothing in particular with regard to enforcement. Just a general comment that I do kind of see and believe that there is a gap between a lot of the work that is done, kind of, you know, there's two prongs to this. There's kind of the engineering side that Greg does and Dwayne, to kind of mitigate traffic behaviors from, for lack of a better, like a structural perspective. But I think, you know, the enforcement is kind of a softer tactic. I don't necessarily fully understand like how and when it's used, and just looking at the bigger picture of numbers in Hartford County, it's been going down. Like enforcement numbers are down. So that's just a general comment. Nothing really, you know, specific other than I would love to see them there.
Yeah.
You know, the guys who came probably a year ago, great guys. Stanford, cool guy. I see him out. It's great to talk to him. I appreciate the work they do. But in a lot of ways, I think the work they do really supplements a lot of the work that's done from the engineering side in a lot of ways. And I think it's something that's already in the budget, and that could potentially be leveraged a little more. And maybe, you know, there's something I'm not seeing with respect to, you know, some type of policy that's there already for enforcement. I'll leave it at that. Thanks.
Yep. Yeah, one thing David Beers brought up was, you know, parking in bike lanes, protected bike lanes, is a big, you know, concern for cyclists. And I think at the time the response was, you know, the cyclists should report that. But there's also that neighborhood, you know, moving through the town and seeing these things happen and being able to ticket when that happens without having to be the person voicing the concern. If it's expected that would happen. On the traffic calming program draft, Greg, if you're still available, so in the traffic calming program, enforcement is mentioned, you know, a number of times, and you do outline the appendix steps enforcement takes. Is there anything specific to stating, you know, if a traffic calming program is adopted, the town takes a stance to, you know, to equally enforce, you know, what it's laid out to calm traffic and protect, you know, vulnerable users?
I wouldn't be in a position to speak for that. Would be a police department that would need to respond to that. I wouldn't feel comfortable taking a shot at that one.
Yeah, more of my question, you know, I wouldn't expect a direct response was, you know, when you guys are developing the draft, have enforcement been able to provide input and feedback to you on the draft proposal?
Yes, we've been working closely with police and fire on it.
Okay. Thank you, Greg. As a commission, do we want to, if we can get the police enforcement on one of the next meetings or to one of the next meetings because they're in person, real people, do we want to dedicate if possible, right? So say enforcement's able to join, I'm not going to promise July, but say August or September, do we want to dedicate a big chunk of that meeting to enforcement and plan an agenda ahead of time? That way we can prepare as a group and also give police a chance to prepare some responses as well.
Absolutely.
Ken,
any thoughts? You look engaged.
No, the only thing I was going to say is, I think a preliminary meeting with them would be appropriate, or an earlier conversation with them, as you're kind of saying, because either they may feel sabotaged or the right person may not be there to give any answers or have a discussion. So I think it's appropriate to see if you can connect and have some discussions ahead of time to make it worthwhile on all parties.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it depends who shows up or who's assigned, or if there's someone that really capable of representing the department.
Yeah. It's a great point.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I agree with that.
it's not just about grilling, and I'm not saying people are suggesting that, them about certain issues or problems. I think they're amazing, a potential to be amazing ambassadors because they touch so many people for cyclists. And so if we can arm them, to your point, Ken, with more information beforehand, what we're about, and then even re-engage that idea that we'd like to see representation at every one of our meetings, or every other at the very least. So 6 times a year would be a nice goal. But this whole idea, because they're just out and about in the public, they could be incredible advocates.
Yeah, it's a great point too, Colin.
Because there's been a random officer attend on a very random basis, but I think they go there and say, well, we can't really do anything. It's not a priority for them or valuable for them. So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could even, I'm just spitballing here, but you could even have an agenda point that makes sense to them in each of the 6 times they come in a 12-month given year, something so that there's a relevance play as well. And
Can you say it again, Colin? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Well, I mean, if one of the things is coming and they just feel like they're sitting around, I think the officers would appreciate if we sequenced certain things in a given year that are important to talk about that relate to them, whether it's upcoming events or certain traffic areas that seem to have the most people the most wary of them because of vehicular movements, or whatever it is that would be a germane subject for them each time they came.
Yeah.
And get their opinion. That's the other side. What do you think is going on with bicycles and pedestrians? How could this all improve?
Mm-hmm. And we have the third component, which is the survey, which is, people, lots of comments in there as well to look through and review. All right. That's it for new business. Any questions or input from the public as well? Okay. That concludes what we have on the agenda for the Pedestrian and Bicycle Commission. I will open it to Ethan Frankel. Actually, Ethan, before I do, just want to open it up to the public. Any questions or comments on the commission meeting that we're concluding roughly around 8:20 p.m. Anything you want to add to that before we jump to Bike West Hartford, which you're staying tuned. You definitely want to stay tuned for Bike West Hartford. And if you hear my wife saying Nemo in the background, that's not part of the meeting. All right, as the commission, we're going to end 8:20 from the commission agenda, and then we're going to jump to Ethan Frankel and maybe another caller as well for Bike West Hartford. Some exciting things that they have coming and want to share with everyone on the call. Ethan, over to you.
Good evening, everybody. I have a hour-and-a-half presentation that I want to do in Bike West Hartford. Sorry, just
okay.
kidding. So there's not really a lot to report, but the two things are, one of them is the big thing because it's Center Streets, and we're blindly moving forward with Center Streets on August 29th, as I think I've said before in another meeting. Have a meeting on Wednesday morning with Public Works and police to just sort of make 100% sure that they're on board too. So that's where we're at with that. We have $0 in the coffers to put on Center Street. So when I say we're blindly moving forward, we're moving forward with actually no idea where we're getting our money from. So if anybody out there knows a business or a person or anybody that would be interested in sponsoring Center Streets, please let me know, because that would be helpful. We need to raise about $6,000 or $7,000 to be able to pay for the police and Public Works. That's the most of what our expense is. The rest of the expenses, just things like signs and posters and things like that. So yeah, we're going to need $6,000 or $7,000, but we're moving forward, and any support you can give us would be much appreciated. Again, that's August 29th. It's the last Sunday morning in August. It will be from 9 in the morning until 1 in the afternoon, as it has been the previous 4 years of Center Street. And on the front of the Mary Ellen Thibodeau Memorial, which is slated to be built at the entrance to American School for the Deaf on North Main Street, and should be built by the first week of August. We have nearly raised the $15,000 that we expected to get. We're at about $14,000. I don't know how we're going to bridge that gap between 14 and 15, because right now donations have sort of dropped off. But again, if anybody knows anybody that would like to donate anything at all, even if it's $5 to the memorial, you can go to bikewesthartford.org, and there's a place to do that with PayPal there, just as there is a way to join Bike West Hartford, and for a single person as $25 and a family as $35. It would be great to see everybody who's on the board be at least a member of Bike West Hartford. So
Ethan and Daniel,
yeah.
Can I ask a question on the memorial? Daniel, have you sent that link out with a little blurb to our larger interested parties list in West Hartford, the one that you send the whole agenda to? I think that would be worthwhile to do that.
I don't remember if I did or not. Okay, I'll take a look at that.
Because I think there are probably a lot of people out there who might just give a little bit here, a little bit there, but could add up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is there
okay.
Are you talking about a blurb already on the Bike West Hartford, or are you saying to write a blurb? Because I could do it.
I'm saying for us to send an email to the larger email list. It's all the people we've collected over the past 5-10 years, people interested in bicycle and pedestrian topics. Daniel has that. That's the list that Daniel uses to notify people of this meeting. Let them know that Bike West Hartford is working to create this memorial to Mary Ellen. So just a few sentences in an email with the link to the page. That was what I was suggesting.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I have
Yeah,
a lot of, I've done a number of letters, so I have most of what to write. It's really just a matter of who to send it to.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, I have access to the list too, right, Daniel? I could send it if you give me the blurb, Ethan. I could send it out.
Okay, that would be great.
Good.
Yeah, and apologize. So Sandy, and that's important to know, and I'm glad we're talking about it too, because I wasn't sure where that list lands, right? So far as like communications and did someone sign up for marketing or just related to commission agenda items? Because that list at this point is, I don't say 2+ years stale, except for the people that we add here and there, right? So if
Well,
I touch base with you on that.
Yeah, it may be a stale list, Daniel, but it's people who knew Mary Ellen.
Yeah.
It's people who went on those Thursday night rides. We collected that list from a lot of different ways, and I don't think anybody would be offended to
Okay.
receive that request.
Okay. Ethan, how's that sound with you?
That sounds good. Yeah, I think
Okay.
that, it doesn't hurt to, we all get asked to donate to all kinds of things every day. And so it doesn't, every time one of those things comes, it may be slightly annoying, but it's not unexpected. And so.
Yeah, and I that email we had, I wasn't sure where that list lands, Ethan. So I'm glad we're talking about it, and Sandy brought it up as well, of just what we can do related to that list, right? So there's I didn't want to stop your conversation on the Mary Ellen Memorial. So any more updates on that?
No, I think everything, it's just exciting. It's everything is pretty much in place, and I've said it before, everybody's been really generous. It's the amount we've raised is heartwarming and amazing, and a lot of it is from the friends and colleagues and former schoolmates and people who are close to the family. And then there are certainly other donations as well, but that's where, it strikes me when you want to raise $7,000 for Center Streets, it seems so hard, but it is perhaps, I've learned, easier to get donations for things that tug at your heartstrings. So anyway, I think we can do both, but it's been an interesting experience raising money for this, and the memorial is just exciting. I've said it before it's starting out what was just going to be a bench has become some place that will be nice to stop and just stop by the side of the road, and especially a road that's going to soon be much safer than it was certainly since the 25 years that I've lived in town and traveled that road every day. So I can't wait to see North Main Street with a road diet and perhaps stop having people pass me at 45, 50 miles an hour as I go down that road. So that's about it from Bike West Hartford. Please, any help anybody can give for Center Streets, especially knowing somebody who on a business or a person who might want to sponsor.
Thanks, Ethan. And Denise, Ethan, are you guys able to connect so Denise can send it out to a larger list relating the Mary Ellen Thibodeau fundraising?
I guess I'm not sure if I have. I should have Denise's email, but I'm not 100% sure. I'm going to have to look. So if you just want to shoot that to Ethan at bikewesthartford.org, that would be
yeah, I can
great.
do that.
Yeah, I'll put you two together on email. And hey, Ethan, when you had a conversation with town for Center Streets, I feel like a lot has changed since Center Streets first happened and the last time it happened in 2019, where we have, one-way traffic on LaSalle, and then we have, artistically painted, barriers at this point. So and the town's been a lot more flexible in the center, it seems, related to, accommodations. Are they letting you, is there a way, have you had a conversation with them to set up a booth to prior to the Center Streets to help raise funds? Was that something they would be open to?
I don't know. That's an interesting idea. Hadn't thought about that. I could bring that up at the meeting. You mean to literally ask for donations on the street when people are around in the center?
Yeah, I mean, if I can grab someone after happy hour or after like an afternoon lunch and tell them about what's coming on and they're interested, that might be just another way to help raise funds for Center Streets. I know myself would be interested in being at that booth, and I think it'd be kind of a great way to capture people.
We've never really raised the money from the people who come to it. I mean, we've raised a modicum amount. Maybe we'll get like $600 or something mostly at Celebrate West Hartford when we'd spend 14 hours in the booth at Celebrate trying to pry money out of people's pockets. But we'd probably get to about $600 from that, and with T-shirts that you'd get when you joined Bike West Hartford and so forth. But without Celebrate, we miss all that public exposure. But it's funny because Tracy and I have been out at different things in West Hartford and like events with Playhouse on Park where people recognize us and say, "Oh, you're the people with the bike people. You put on that event," and we're like, yeah. They say, "Oh, we hope you're having it this year because it's like our favorite thing that happens in the year and stuff." So
yeah,
there's the people who have been to it certainly have an experience of having a really, really joyous Sunday morning. So it would be nice if we could get it would continue to be a free event, but be able to raise some money from some of the people who do come.
Yeah.
So that's a great idea. I'll bring it up at at the Zoom meeting that's going to be with the police and some town people, public works people, and Renee McHugh.
Yeah, I just feel like I've seen more booths up or more things up in the center. And it might be more open to it than they were 2 years ago. So let me know.
Okay, yeah, good idea. Thank you.
All right, any other questions from the public?
Thanks for everybody's time.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ethan. And again, Center Streets, we're trying to raise, Ethan's trying to raise money. Bike West Hartford is trying to raise money for the August 29th, 2021 Center Streets event. They closed down a block in West Hartford Center for car traffic. If you have pedestrian or you're a bicyclist, it's a really fun way to enjoy the town center. And then also the Mary Ellen Thibodeau Memorial. They are continuing to raise funds. They're very close to the end funding goal. So please check out Bike West Hartford. You can Google that and find the website. That concludes our meeting. Anyone else have anything to add before we end? Before we end, let me just make one quick announcement. Our next meeting is going to be on Monday, July 12th, in person, live. You can attend, part of the public, and it's going to be at the Elmwood Community Center in room 24. So our July 12th West Hartford Pedestrian and Bicycle Commission meeting is going to be an in-person meeting. It is not going to be at the town hall. It's going to be at the Elmwood Community Center in room 24. If you need where that is located, it's close to the intersection of South Quaker and New Britain Avenue in West Hartford. So again, our July 12th West Hartford Pedestrian and Bicycle Commission meeting, 7 p.m. will be at the Elmwood Community Center in room 24. That ends our meeting. It is 8:33 p.m. Thank you everyone for joining. Greg, thank you for staying on the line. Thank you for joining the call. And commission members and all those who attended, thanks for your time. Have a great evening.